Hello everyone. How are you all doing? I hope all are doing good. Last class we started with the poem A Tiger in the Zoo, which was written by George Leslie Norris. In the very beginning, we started with introduction of the poet, that is George Leslie Norris was born on 1921 and he died on 2006. I told you he was a post war writer. He was well known for his short poems and short story, and apart from that, his famous works are Finding Gold, The Loud Winder, Phoenix Living, etc. Secondly, we had a very short introduction about the poem where I told you that the poem written by Leslie Norris explains the agony and helplessness of a caged tiger that lives in a zoo. The poet explains what his life could be if he had been a free animal. The poet has tried to explain about the condition of animals that are caged by human beings for their own fun. So this was the introduction of the poem. Thirdly, we started our poem and we have finished first two stanza, where in the first stanza the poet says that the tiger that is confined, arrested in the zoo, moves around in the cage under his bright colored skin. He further says that the tiger can take only a few steps because the cage is small and it is not easy to move in it. One cannot hear his footsteps. He has very soft feet like velvet, because of which there is no sound of the tiger's footsteps. The tiger tries to control his anger by quietly walking in the limited area of his cage. He is angry because he is not free. And this is what we discussed in the first stanza, where the poet explains about the beauty of the tiger and his poor condition, that is being arrested inside the zoo. Further, the poet says that the tiger is angry because he is not able to move freely in the zoo because he is inside the cage. In the second stanza, the poet says that if this tiger was free, he would have hid himself behind the long grass near the water bodies so that he could easily catch a deer in order to have it as its food. Basically, the poet wants to say that the actual life of a tiger is to live in jungle where he could catch his prey and eat it, but the tiger in the cage cannot do so. Fine. In the second stanza, the poet tells that the tiger was free in the jungle because he had lots of space where he used to hide inside the long grass and wait for his prey and attack. But here, since he is in cage, he can't do so. He can't go for hunting. That is, since his food will be brought by the officials who are there to take care in the zoo. Find this were the two stanza which we saw yesterday. Today we are going to deal with the next two stanza. Without wasting further time, let us begin today's class. The third stanza. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws terrorizing the village. Now, what does this stanza mean? So far, in the first stanza, the beauty of the tiger which is locked inside the cage. In the second stanza, we saw that the poet was concerned about the tiger because it is not free. It has been arrested inside the cage. In the second stanza, the poet talks that if the tiger was there in the forest, he could have hidden inside the grass, long grass, and went for hunting. But in the third stanza, the poet now is thinking, what if the tiger is let free in localities? In the first line, he should be snarling around houses. Okay, it means that the tiger would have been free. He would have snarled around the houses located at the outskirts of the forest. That is, if the tiger was free, it would have roamed inside the streets and every houses. Second line, at the jungle's edge. That is, nearby the edge of the jungle, the tiger would have entered to the localities where the people are living. Next line, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. That is, he would terrorize, he will make scared the people with sharp tooth and claws. This would create fear among the people living in the villages. Okay, so here the poet is trying to say that if the tiger was let free in the jungle, maybe there are chances that the tiger would enter to the localities where people are living, and maybe it will make everyone scared by its strong teeth and claws, and as a result, this would create fear among the people living in the villages. Fine, this is what the third stanza talks about. Now, the fourth stanza, but he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. In the fourth stanza, the poet comes to the reality of the tiger that is inside the cage. He says that the tiger is confined, arrested in a strong cell which is made of strong building material. He further says that as the tiger is behind bars, so tiger's mentality of attacking others are also behind the bars. The tiger can't think of attacking others. He just stalks in the cage. He never tries to terrorize the visitor because his power is restricted by the cage. Therefore, he never tries to terrorize the visitor as he cannot attack them. Fine? So here the poet says in the fourth stanza, that is, since the tiger is inside the concrete cell, that is the cage, it is not making an issue, or it is not creating any problem to the visitors or any other living beings, as he cannot attack them. I repeat, the tiger never tries to terrorize the visitors because his power is restricted by the cage. Therefore, he never tries to terrorize the visitors as he cannot attack them. Let us see the last and final stanza. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. Here, the poet says that in the night, the tiger hears the sounds of the patrolling cars. What is patrolling cars? The patrolling cars are the vehicles of police which are used to guard at night. So, in the night, the tiger hears the sounds of these cars. He then stares at the shining stars with his shining eyes. The poet wants to say that the tiger is sad, and as he is confined in the cage, so he cannot do anything. Therefore, he stares at the stars in the night and tries to divert his thoughts towards them. With this, the poem gets over, in which the last stanza, the poet mainly talks about the loneliness of tiger, which is there inside the cage. Tiger is to wind away its time by listening to the patrolling cars during the night time, and then in loneliness and sadness the tiger looks up on the sky, staring at the stars, so that he can divert his thoughts towards them. So with this, the poem gets over. To summarize the poem is all about a tiger in the zoo, where in the first stanza we saw the beauty of the tiger inside the zoo. In the second stanza, we saw that if the tiger was independent and free in the forest, it would have went for hunting, hiding in the long grass. Then in the third stanza, the poet says that if the tiger would have been free, he would have snarled around the houses located at the outskirts of the forest. He would terrorize people with his sharp tooth and claws. This would create fear among the people in the villages. Next, in the fourth stanza, we saw that now the poet comes to the reality of the tiger that is inside the cage. He says that the tiger is confined in a strong cell which is made of strong building material. He further says that as the tiger is behind bars, so his anger is also behind the bars. He just stalks in the cage. He never tries to terrorize the visitors because his power is restricted by the cage. Therefore, he never tries to terrorize the visitors as he cannot attack them. Last and final stanza we saw where the poet says that in the night the tiger hears sounds of patrolling cars. The patrolling cars are the vehicles of police which are used to guard at night. So in the night, the tiger hears the sounds of these cars. He then stares at the shining stars with his shining eyes. The poet wants to say that the tiger is sad, and as he is confined in the cage, so he cannot do anything. Therefore, he stares at the stars in the night and tries to divert his thoughts. With this, let us conclude today's poem, and I would like to give you a very short assignment, that is, write the summary of whole poem in about 100 to 150 words. So thank you very much, my dear students. Stay safe, stay in home, don't roam outside. A very happy learning. Thank you so much.